Hey, good afternoon to everybody. Happy Wednesday. It's Daryl here. It's not so bright and freaking early. It's 3:30 p.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. If you watch my channel, you know I'm usually here at 3:30 a.m. It's a Wednesday afternoon. I'm trying lately because I'm so busy working on my artwork that I've been trying to actually do 2 or 3 videos and have one ready for the morning because my mornings are so crazy. I don't know if I've been really pressed to have time. Even getting up at 2 a.m. I'm still being pressed, and I find myself running all over the place. Okay, so I came across a article on TMZ, and the link will be down below for this. There's an actual interview with Lizzo at a radio station. Now, I'll tell you what the whole story is in a second. I want to warn you guys that there is, as I read this article, as usual, the reason I'm picking this article is because it reminded me of something that happened during my addiction. Something similar, and this is the reason I'm talking about this is it's a word of warning, a tale of warning. How it turned out for me. It turned out with years of me worrying, anxiety over what I did, and how it all turned out. All right, so this is a warning because this video is going to be rather explicit. All right. The article down below is about Lizzo, the singer who is rather popular these days. I gotta be honest, man, I can't even name one song by Lizzo. I think she won a Grammy. I'm 57 years old, man. Give me a break. But I was interested in reading this story. She's, like I said, she's 35 years old. In this article, she's being sued by 3 of her backup dancers for sexual harassment claims. And there's more to this story that's coming out now. Apparently, she was very interested in traveling to Amsterdam because she heard about a live sex show at Amsterdam. I just remembered another story, too, that I'm going to have to tell you guys. I'm going to have to add on to this video. She heard about this one particular place where the performers used fruit, particularly bananas, in their show. And she ended up going there with her backup dancers. Now, part of this suit is that the backup dancers are claiming that she encouraged them to, I don't even know how to say this, it actually says it in the article down below, to catch phallic adult sex toys that were being propelled out of performers' vaginas, and along with eating the fruit in the performers. I hope I don't lose my monetization over this. I encourage you, if you're really interested in knowing the details, it's bizarre. It's bizarre. And to add to the validity of this, like I said, down below there's an actual radio interview where she's pretty much admitting this. She's saying that she needs her potassium, her puss-tassium. She wants to eat some fruit out of the performers. She actually said, the live video down below, she actually says this, so it adds a lot of validity to their claims. And this is one of those cases where I feel, honestly, I feel kind of sorry for her. I really do, because something that did happen to me. The thing I just remembered was back when I was I was 15 years old. Me and a friend cut school, and I lived very close to New York City. I had never been to New York City. And we cut school. We took a bus from our suburb of Watertown to Waterbury. We took a bus from Waterbury down to New York City. We were 15 years old. And this was back when Times Square, this was back in 1980, let's see, if I was 15, that was 1981. And we actually went into a live sex show. And Lizzo describes a sex show down below where the performers were lovemaking passionately. And that's exactly what I saw during this. This was when I was 15 years old. That was 42 years ago. The thing I do remember too, and it was a skeevy theater, man. It was just, there was you know, there's maybe four chairs, 4 seats in deep on each side of the aisle. It was like an old theater, and you know, it was truly the raincoat crowd, you know, for real. And I remember walking out of there all those years ago, and I remember seeing this young black teenager kind of in the shadows, and he was smoking a pipe, not a regular pipe. And that's before I even got involved in this stuff. So that's that one experience. The other experience I want to tell you about, and this is embarrassing. This happened at a stag party, a very large stag party that I had heard about. This is back when I was using, particularly I was using cocaine. And me and my friend, my high school buddy, this was probably about 1997. I was probably about 32 years old. And we heard about this stag show. It was on a Saturday afternoon. And we drove up to this club. It was outdoors. And there was probably about over 100 guys there. People playing horseshoes, food, kegs of beer, all that stuff. And we had been using, we got a large amount of cocaine, and we had been, it's, you know, looking back, I couldn't even call this guy a friend. Even I graduated from high school with him. The only time, at this point in my life, the only time I went out in public, the only time I went out with my friends was when I used. That's really all we had in common at this point. Everything we did involved cocaine and drinking. And I hadn't gotten into heroin yet. So we showed up at the stag, and a couple strippers pulled up. These beautiful, they were beautiful looking women, and the guys crowded around. And I don't know how I ended up getting in front. And believe me, I'm not bragging about this. I ended up getting in front near the strippers. And I told you guys in other videos, a lot of times because I'm tall, I stick out, like I said, and I'm comfortable talking to women. And I started talking to the 2 strippers, getting friendly with them. Well, there was also the cocaine, of course, which they were interested in. Apparently, they were involved there. Their boyfriends were in a motorcycle club in Massachusetts, and they demanded, you know, they had some rules for their show. They were going to do a live show for everybody this stag. And there'd be no touching them, and absolutely, positively, no photography. That's one thing they stressed because they didn't want the pictures getting back to the motorcycle, their boyfriends in the motorcycle club. And that's another thing I worried about for years if I was on film somewhere. And the show started, and I remember they took the groom, the prospective groom, up onto a picnic table. And they both serviced him in front of like 100 guys. This before that happened, when they were kind of getting ready. They were at their car, like I said, when they first pulled up. These 2 girls pulled up. I think they were in like an 80-something Camaro, and this is embarrassing. We started flirting. They knew I had cocaine, and I ended up performing oral gratification on the strippers on the bumper of their car in front of like 100 other guys. And then for years I you know, at the time when you're high, it seems like a good idea. For years after that, I would be the butt of people's jokes when I walked into the bar. People were saying that I would die of this, or I would die of that disease, or some disease or something like that. But then after the show, they wanted me to escort them to a local bar to be their security. Seriously. So I went. I remember going into the bathroom after they had done the show for the stag party, and I went into the men's room with them, me and the 2 strippers, and we went in the stall, and I was sharing what I had with them, and I was sharing the substance I had with them, and they were sharing themselves with me. It was one of the weirdest things I ever did, like I said, and I would have never done anything like this if it wasn't for being under the influence of these drugs. And like I said, you'll understand what I'm getting at in a second. Once I got clean well, let me finish that story. Then we ended up going to a bar, and my goal was to bring them with me, I guess, to bring them home that night. And so I was intent on getting them some substances. And we went to a local bar that I knew very well. And I ended up getting a gun pulled on me in the bathroom. And the funny thing about, it's not funny, but the guy that was in the bathroom holding this little, like a 30 Saturday Night Special on me, he was so intoxicated, he actually dropped the gun on the floor. And I grabbed him. I said, if you ever pull a gun on me again, make sure you don't drop it on the floor. And I gave him back his gun. The thing is, this is the moral of the story, I guess you could say, is I got clean and sober about, and like I said, this wasn't looked at as a cool thing. Whenever I went to bars for years after, when I was still using, for a couple of years after that, I was the butt of jokes for doing this. And then once I got clean and sober, it was always in my mind that I was worried. These were, I didn't know what I caught, if I caught anything. These women had obviously been with a lot of people, and I had no idea if I had contracted anything. And for about 5 years, it was a source of a lot of anxiety for me. Once I got into recovery, I had the option of taking tests at the methadone clinic. I'd have a physical when I first got in there, and then every year after that. And I had the option to be tested for everything from the one with the lungs. I forgot what that's called. When you have, I can't remember what that one's called. All types of venereal diseases and AIDS, which is the big one. I was worried. I was terrified. The first year I was offered this test, I didn't take it because I was so scared. I thought after using these drugs and doing stuff like this for 25 years that I was doomed. This was just one time of many times that I'd done stuff like this, and like I said, it wasn't a cool thing. Let's talking about this now is embarrassing. And the reason I'm talking about this is, if anybody's watching this, it didn't make me cool. It didn't make me, the hero of other guys. It made me the butt of jokes, and I had like some crazy anxiety for years. If I got AIDS, how would I explain, or HIV, how would I explain that to my family? I was at a stag this one time, and I did. This was a constant source of anxiety. The second year that I was at the clinic, I opted to take. I said, screw it. I'm gonna, I need to know. And I took all the tests, and I can't believe, thank the blessed Lord, I was clean on everything. I was totally clean. I took another test the following year and the year after that. And those are the last I took. That was from 2007. I got clean in 2006, 2007, 2008. The last test I took was probably in 2010. I've only been, with the two girls that I loved, and I'm pretty sure I'm still clean. I'm 100% sure I'm still clean. I've had physicals. I did have another test a year or two ago, but it was not worth. It was a very bad idea, and being under the influence of these drugs, I would have never done anything like this if I hadn't been under the influence of drugs, and it was the source of constant anxiety. So anyway, getting back now to Lizzo, I think you could understand why, I read this story, and I'm thinking about, this happened when I was her age, and it wasn't hot. It wasn't, it wasn't a good experience, a good sexual experience. It was the source of fear and anxiety, and I was the butt of jokes. When you do that in front of people, like her talking about doing this at the bar, you're not looked at like you think you might imagine. She might think that she's going to be looked at as a free sexual spirit, and it'll turn guys on knowing that she did this. And I'm willing to bet it's not going to work out that way. she'll be the butt of jokes, and she'll probably, without a doubt, I imagine she'd worry about what kind of things can be passed from this kind of, what kind of diseases could easily be passed from this kind of bizarre, I don't know what else to call it, sexual experience. Like I said, this is back when I was using, and the reason I talk about this is because it's what I was reminded of when I read this article, and it wasn't, there was no positive aspect to this at all. And that's the reason I'm telling you guys this very embarrassing story. Anyway, the links will be down below. I don't know if I'll be brave enough to read the comments on this one. You guys have a good Wednesday, or Thursday morning if you watch it then.